The snowfall. Trigger warning. This story contains elements of suspense and supernatural activity. Viewer discretion is advised. Tonight's story follows Sam, a high school student who is about to experience something unsettling as the countdown continues to night 4. Sam. It was a cold, silent night, like any other night this time of year. Snow covered the yard, blanketing everything in white, and the streetlights cast a warm glow across the ground. But something felt off. There was a heaviness in the air, like the world was holding its breath. I was standing by the window, watching the snow fall, when I noticed it. Among the white flakes drifting from the sky, there were others. Darker ones. At first, I thought it was just a trick of the light, maybe shadows cast from the trees. But as I watched, I realized the flakes weren't shadows. They were black. Black snow, drifting down, mixed in with the white. I'd never seen anything like it. It felt wrong, like something out of a nightmare, and yet I couldn't look away. The black flakes floated softly, almost lazily, swirling in the air before settling onto the ground, staining the snow with dark patches. I stared, my mind racing, wondering if anyone else could see what I was seeing. Part of me wanted to call out, to tell someone, anyone, but my voice was caught in my throat. Instead, I just watched, frozen, as the black snowflakes continued to fall. Then, something strange happened. As the flakes settled on the ground, I felt something. A shift, like a memory surfacing, only it wasn't mine. It was like watching a scene from a movie, playing out in my mind, but the people, I didn't know them. In my mind, I could see a family gathered around a Christmas tree, their faces blurred, their voices muffled. I could feel the warmth of the room, smell the pine from the tree, hear the soft hum of Christmas music in the background. But it wasn't my family. I had no idea who these people were. I shook my head, trying to clear the vision, but as soon as I looked outside again, another memory surfaced. This time it was a group of children playing in the snow, laughing and throwing snowballs, their faces joyful. But there was something strange about them. Their clothes looked old, worn, like they were from another time. I backed away from the window, my heart pounding. I didn't understand what was happening. Why was I seeing these memories? And who did they belong to? The black snowflakes kept falling, swirling in the air, each one bringing a new vision, a new memory. Scenes of Christmases past, families gathered, children playing, laughter and warmth. But all of it felt wrong, like I was intruding on something private, something I wasn't meant to see. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the images, but they kept coming, flashing behind my eyelids, each one more vivid than the last. I could hear voices, laughter, whispers, fragments of conversations I didn't understand. It was like I was being pulled into a world that wasn't mine. A world that didn't want me there. I took a deep breath, telling myself it was just my imagination, just a bad dream. But when I opened my eyes, I saw something that made my blood run cold. There, in the snow outside, were footprints. Dark, deep footprints, leading from the yard to the window where I was standing. They hadn't been there before. I was sure of it. I felt my heart racing as I stared at them, my mind struggling to make sense of it. Who or what had made those footprints? The snow was falling heavier now, but the black flakes still drifted down, mingling with the white, staining the ground. And as I watched, the footprints began to fade, disappearing into the snow like they'd never been there. I stumbled back from the window, my mind racing, my heart pounding. I wanted to scream, to call out for help, but I knew no one would believe me. Black snow, visions of strangers, footprints that vanished without a trace. It sounded insane, even to me. I tried to go about the rest of my evening, pretending everything was normal, but the images kept flashing in my mind, haunting me, taunting me. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see them, the families, the children, their blurred faces staring back at me, as if they knew I was watching. Finally, exhausted, I climbed into bed, hoping sleep would bring some relief. But as I lay there in the dark, I could still feel it, that heavy, oppressive feeling like something was watching me, waiting. I pulled the covers over my head, trying to block it out, but it was no use. The images kept coming, flickering in the darkness. Memories of people I'd never met, places I'd never been. I must have fallen asleep eventually, because when I opened my eyes, the room was filled with a strange, dim light. I blinked, disoriented, my mind struggling to make sense of what I was seeing. And then I realized my room was covered in snow. I sat up, my heart pounding, staring in disbelief as black and white snowflakes drifted down from the ceiling, settling onto my bed, the floor, the walls. It was like I was trapped in a snow globe, surrounded by the same strange, black-stained snow I'd seen outside. And then the visions returned. This time they were sharper, clearer. I could see the faces, hear the voices, feel the emotions. It was like the memories were alive, swirling around me, pulling me deeper and deeper. The voices grew louder, whispers turning to shouts, laughter twisting into cries of fear. I tried to move, to run, but I couldn't. I was trapped, surrounded by the snow, by the memories, by the faces of strangers who seemed to be staring at me, accusing me, reaching for me. I could feel their cold hands, their icy breath, their desperate voices echoing in my mind. I wanted to scream, to escape, but there was no way out. The snow kept falling, the visions kept coming, and I knew I was no longer alone. The whispers grew louder, swirling around me, filling the room with fragments of conversations, laughter, cries, all twisted, echoing from every corner. It was like each flake held a memory, a life, and each one wanted something from me. I tried to cover my ears, to block it out, but the sounds only grew louder, pressing in, sinking into my skin. I looked around, desperate, my gaze darting over the room, but the snow was everywhere now, black and white swirling together, filling the air, blurring my vision. It felt like the walls were closing in, like the room was shrinking, trapping me in this storm of strangers' memories. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick with cold, each breath like swallowing ice. And then I felt it. A hand, icy and skeletal, reaching from behind, touching my shoulder. I froze, my entire body paralyzed with fear, too afraid to turn around, too terrified to see who or what was standing behind me. I could feel the grip tightening, fingers cold as death, pressing into my skin. Then, close to my ear, I heard a voice, low, whispering, barely more than a breath. "You can't escape, Sam. This is only the beginning." My heart thundered, each beat pounding in my ears, drowning out every thought except one. I had to get out. I tried to move, to shake off the hand, but it held firm, like it was pulling me deeper into the snow, into the memories, into them. The room seemed to spin, the walls blurring, melting away, and I was no longer in my room. I was standing in a dimly lit house, surrounded by strangers, their faces blurred, their eyes fixed on me. They were dressed in old, faded clothing, their expressions blank, empty, lifeless, like they were waiting. The whisper came again, closer this time, like it was coming from inside my own mind. You're part of this now. Night 4 has begun. The strangers stepped closer, their hands reaching out, their cold fingers brushing my skin. I stumbled back, but there was nowhere to go. They closed in around me, their faces twisted with a mix of sadness and anger, and in their eyes I saw something I couldn't escape. They were trapped, and now, so was I. Thank you for watching Night 4 of the 12 Nights of Terror. If you're brave enough to see what happens next, come back tomorrow for Night 5. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because this countdown is only getting more sinister.